Alright, here's the game plan. As I was looking over it, I guess it's not going to be that hard to describe the priorities of the objects within the game world. They are going to just, like, you don't have to describe going north, south, west. However, you could just say, does this tile, how close is it to another tile, like an enemy? How far away are we from the capital? Like, whatever. You can make a whole rubrics, and then you don't have to go north or northeast or northwest. You could just pick a tile and grade it on the criteria. I don't know what the aggression value is yet. I don't really have a good setup for that, so we'll just keep that out for now. So the AI is going to put down a pawn if, in the case of the pawn, the computer knows that it can't put more than 3 down. So the priority would be 0 if it already owns 3 pawns. And then if it has a pawn already, then the priority would be a +2. And then we could go, maybe the commander could be +3 minus the distance of any enemy units. So if another culture has a civilian on the ground and it's 2 tiles away, then the priority is +1 for putting a commander down. And then once they already have the commander, then they can't put another one down, so the priority value doesn't really matter anymore. But if they don't have a commander and they have 1 pawn, then so far they would be incentivized to put another pawn down. 3 minus 1 equals 2. And then, but if there's another guy nearby, another nation, another culture nearby, then it might get outweighed. Like, we might move to putting a commander down because there's somebody nearby and we'd rather not have a pawn on the field. And then it would naturally sort itself out again, because then it would go back to putting pawns down. For the culture converting unit, we'll just make it a different number, 2 minus the max distance of an enemy. It's more of a priority to put a commander down than it is to put a bishop down. But once you have all your pawns down, this would be the next thing that happens. So it's all about, like, well, very simple rules. All of them will add up to be something, complex. And then it gets a little more tricky because we have moving a unit. And I'm not really sure what to do with this one. Because, okay, so if you're a knight, navy. Okay. The priority for moving a unit is it's tricky. So far, I'm going to put it so that the commanders and the bishops, they get a +5 priority minus the max distance to the enemy unit. So what that would be is, if there's a unit really close by, they're going to act on it. So a knight might be 3 tiles away from another pawn, and that would mean that it has a +2, right? But then there might be a bishop that's 1 tile away from a pawn, and that might that'd be a +4. So the bishop is going to be the one to it'd be the one to make the move, and then in the next, the culture conversion or the warfare part, I'll put more priority stuff for how it would act there. But generally, like, and then the pawn is plus 10, so very high priority. If there's an enemy one tile away from a pawn, that value is shooting up to 9. Or if there's two tiles away, it shoots up to 8. So the pawns are very avoidant. The idea is just to get the pawns away from the enemy. But so this behavior basically, bishops and knights are moving towards pawns, pawns are running away from others, and so far it's stacked so that the pawns are very sensitive to moving away, but actually I'm going to reverse it. Just reverse how I'm going to make it so the pawns are less sensitive. Like, I want the AI to try to win the game, so sometimes a pawn might just have to be destroyed. But, I'll be able to play test all this stuff once it's coded out, and I'll be able to see how silly or how good the behavior is from the computer when it's set up this way. Okay, so now the AI would stress attacking and trying to convert other units. I think I'm getting that all reversed. What I need to do is I need to have. There we go. I was doing it all wrong. If the bishop or the knight, their max distance to another unit is the priority for them to move around. You'd want to be moving your knights and your bishops towards the enemy. And then if the pawn +4 minus the max distance to another unit starts to see somebody move up closer to them, that value would start to get bigger and bigger. At first it's like, oh, they're 5 tiles away, so it's -1 priority, it's 0 priority. Then they're 4 tiles away, still 0. 3 tiles away, 1 priority. And I guess at that point, at 3 tiles, maybe that's too sensitive. Well, actually, so this rule, so they might get like, okay, say they're 2 tiles away, and this comes out as a score of 2. There would be still over here the possibility of a knight sitting right next to a culture unit, or another enemy. So even if the pawn had a 2 score in priority, over here, if there's a knight sitting right next to somebody else, it would have a 6. And it would choose the warfare option rather than to move the pawn, which is still two spaces away from another unit. But bishops and knights can move 2 unit spaces at once, so that's a good way to set it up for the priority. Like so. Okay. And then finally, when you have the queen on the field, you're going to want to take the other people's cities faster than anything else. So at that point, it would actually be +2 or even like +1. Maybe just +2. And there you have it. That would start moving the queen closer to the castles. They'd be more incentivized to do so than a commander or a knight moving towards a unit or enemy units. And I guess that leaves capturing a city. The whole using action point already to move, I realize doesn't make sense anymore. I think that's more for a player, because the computer I don't know how to make the priorities work together in tandem. Like, these are both under one listed action. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. There we have that. Okay, I feel like that's a lot of the things I needed to wrap up. Yeah, that finishes the list. Now I'll go and code this and bring back some of the first gameplay once it's all ready.